Have you ever noticed this? You're doing everything right. You're not cutting corners, and yet somewhere deep inside, you're tired. There's a weight that just won't leave, a heaviness that follows you from morning to night. Even after work ends, your mind is still at work. Even in conversation, you find yourself replaying your own words afterward, wondering if you said something wrong. And at night, lying in bed, you can't quite sleep, turning over what didn't go well today, wondering whether tomorrow will be any better. Somewhere in every single day there's a part of you that's fighting. Fighting isn't wrong in itself, but every now and then a quiet question rises up from somewhere deep inside. When will I finally get to feel at ease? Today I'd like to share how the Buddha answered that very question, not with complicated doctrine, but with a story, a simple human story, the kind that by the time it ends, leaves your heart just a little bit lighter. Please take your time. There's no hurry here. There was once a woman who came to the Buddha carrying a bundle of wet clothes. She had been washing them in the river since dawn, wringing them out again and again, but they never seemed dry enough. When the Buddha asked her why she didn't simply lay them in the sun, she looked at him confused. She had never thought to stop wringing. So she laid them down on the warm stones, and as the hours passed, something remarkable happened. The clothes dried not because she fought harder, but because she finally let go. About 2,500 years ago, near a great city in ancient India, there lived a disciple who was known for his sharp, restless mind. He had studied long at the Buddha's side, but the longer he studied, the more a cluster of burning questions grew inside him. Does the universe have an end, or is it infinite? Does the soul continue after death, or does it dissolve? If I keep practicing, will I truly be freed from suffering? Or is that just a promise with no answer? These questions circled inside him like smoke that would not clear. And one day, he went to the Buddha with an ultimatum. If you will not answer these questions for me, I cannot go on. I will leave this path entirely. The words were sharp, but the Buddha only smiled, gently, and said, "Did I ever tell you, practice until you have your answers? Did you come to me under any such promise?" The disciple went quiet. The Buddha continued, his voice calm and even. Imagine a man who has been struck by a poisoned arrow, and before anyone can pull it out, he says, "I must first know the name of the man who shot me. I must know his reason. I must know what wood the arrow is made of. What would happen to him?" The disciple felt something shift inside him. He would die, he said softly, before he ever got his answers. "Yes," said the Buddha, "what I teach is this. Pull out the arrow. Not who shot it or why, but the plain and present fact that you are in pain. That is where we begin." For a long moment, the disciple sat very still, and then slowly he nodded. He returned to his meditation that evening, and when he sat, he felt the arrow, not as a mystery to be solved, but as a weight he could finally set down. The burning questions did not disappear, but they no longer consumed him. They became like clouds passing over a mountain, noticed but not clung to, and in that small shift, the restlessness that had driven him for so long began, at last, to quiet. This story, the parable of the poisoned arrow, is one of the most treasured teachings in all of Buddhism, and at its heart flows a concept that Buddhism holds very dear, the idea of nirvana. Now that word can sound distant, almost abstract. Some people picture it as something that happens after death, a kind of paradise on the other side, but its original meaning is much simpler than that. Nirvana means the state in which the fires of suffering have grown still. In the ancient language of India, the word literally means blown out, like a flame that has been quietly extinguished. The burning stops. What remains is a deep, abiding stillness. So what are these fires? The Buddha named three. Craving, that relentless hunger for more, always more. Aversion, the anger that flares when things don't go our way. And confusion, the fog of not knowing which way to turn, of feeling lost inside your own life. When these three fires burn inside us, he said, we suffer. It really is that simple, and nirvana is what remains when they grow quiet. But here's what's important to understand. It isn't the absence of feeling. It isn't becoming cold or numb or robotic. It isn't not caring. Think of embers after a fire has burned down. There's no more flame, but there's warmth, gentleness, a kind of quiet aliveness that lingers. That is nirvana. Like that disciple who came to the Buddha with his burning questions, so many of us believe, if I can just find the right answer, I'll finally be at peace. If I can just figure it out, Whatever it is, the suffering will stop. But the Buddha said, it isn't the answer that sets you free. It is the moment you stop feeding the fire. Let's bring this into daily life, into the moments most of us actually live in. Think about making a mistake at work. You handle it, you apologize, you fix what you can. That part is necessary and important. But then days pass, weeks, and still you're turning it over in your mind. Why did I do that? Why didn't I think more carefully? Replaying the moment again and again, holding the wound open long after it could have begun to heal. Or think about a moment when someone said something unkind to you. They've probably forgotten it entirely by now. But you're still there, in that room, in that conversation, still feeling the sting of what you couldn't say back. Still carrying a quiet ember of anger you can't quite put out. This is exactly what it means for the fire to keep burning. In the Buddha's words, you're still asking why the arrow was shot, while the arrow is still in your side. So what can you do? Here is one small, gentle thing to try. The next time anger rises, or hurt, or frustration, or that familiar sinking feeling, don't fight it. Don't tell yourself, I shouldn't feel this way. That fight only adds more fuel. Instead, just notice. Simply say quietly inside yourself, there's a fire burning right now. That's all. Just notice it. Because the moment you stop adding wood to the flame, it begins on its own, naturally, to grow smaller. This works in our relationships too. When we've decided who someone is, this is just the kind of person they are, they'll always do this to me. We're carrying old fires into new moments. But when we allow ourselves, even briefly, to see the person in front of us right now, something softens, the heat eases. And for parents, especially those moments when a child keeps repeating the same behavior, no matter how many times you've talked about it, the urgency rises. Why won't they just understand? That urgency is a fire too. And simply noticing it, not fixing it, just breathing and noticing, can give you back a little space. Nirvana is not some distant mountaintop. It can begin today. Just once, notice the fire, and choose not to add another log. Your heart will already be a little quieter for it. Before we part today, I want to leave you with just one thing. When we're in the middle of suffering, we tend to believe the same thing. If I push harder, I'll finally break through. If I think longer and deeper, the answer will come and the pain will stop. But the Buddha pointed somewhere else entirely. Stop fighting, notice the fire, and simply stop adding wood to it. That's enough. Because in that moment of noticing, the heart has already begun to grow still. Nirvana is not somewhere far away. It isn't reserved for the end of a long journey or for after this life is over. It is here, right now, a quiet, steady presence already living inside you, waiting patiently for the fires to die down enough that you can feel it. You made it through today. You showed up. That is enough. Please, be gentle with yourself. You don't have to have it all figured out. May the fires inside you grow a little softer, a little quieter, with each passing day. Thank you truly for spending this time here with me. I once knew a monk who spent 30 years meditating in a cave, convinced enlightenment was waiting at the end of his effort, only to find it one ordinary morning while washing his bowl when he finally stopped looking. The water was cold on his hands, and in that simple sensation, everything he'd been searching for was already there. This is what the Buddha knew. You cannot force the heart open, but you can stop clenching your fists around it.